Let's do this.
All right, so welcome everyone. This is our first episode. We're obviously learning how to do this and mind the admin as we check YouTube and whatnot. But we're excited. This is something we've been working on since, October of last year, I think. So long time coming. But our goal is really just to open up a space for us to share soccer content, development content with up and coming players and parents as well. So we'll dive into everything that we're doing. But just fair warning, this is episode number 1, so it may be a little rough around the edges, and we're excited to learn as we go. But Connor, welcome. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm buzzing to be here
on our own show. It's exciting. So what I wanted to do first is just really briefly introduce who we are, what our role is here at Prodigy, and then really what our goal is with the show. So just a quick background, Connor. Could you break down maybe a quick 30-second background of who you are and how you got here?
Yeah. So I'm Connor Antley. I'm 30 years old. I live in Virginia. I play soccer for DC United. I'm a defender. This is my, 6th year playing professionally, second in MLS. So that's a little bit about me. I'm married. I got 3 kids, have a beautiful family, and happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for myself, I'm Corey. I'm not an MLS pro. I live vicariously through Connor's experience. So Connor and I grew up together in the same hometown, and we will share a lot about that story as we progress. But I played soccer my entire life as well and retired halfway through college. So no professional for me, but I have followed along a lot. I'm obsessed with the game. And I tell Connor all the time that I think the obsession that we both have for the game stems not only from our experience, but our obsession with who's next and what's to come. So yeah, excited to be here as well. So let's just kind of walk backwards to tell people, what we're doing here, why this is live, what we're doing. So we started Prodigy Soccer in October of last year. So it's been almost 8 months now we've been working on this. But our whole role with this company, so to speak, is to launch a newsletter where we can share information and insights and everything that parents and players need that are striving for the next level. So we're newsletter based, and we'll have content like this throughout the entire newsletter. But the newsletter itself will send content straight to parents, straight to players. And the idea with that is we don't think it's the best use of time to be always searching around for answers, always searching for insight, always asking coaches questions. And, there's 1,000 different ways that you can approach the next level. So our goal is to just deliver content straight to your inbox through our newsletter.
Yeah.
And we'll link that in the description as well. But through that, we're going to host videos like this, hopefully with other pros, coaches, trainers, experts, dietitians, anybody that's surrounding the sports world, specifically around soccer. And again, delivering that straight to your inbox. So that's kind of our ultimate goal in today's session is to, get to know Connor a little bit more and get to know our entire program. But overall, we just want to deliver value and impact the next generation of soccer players. So, Connor, anything to add there at all?
No, I think you nailed it. I think our goal is to, really help parents and players that, want to reach the next level, kind of help them navigate the landmines that come along with trying to figure that out. It's not an easy journey, especially nowadays. I feel like it's getting even more difficult. So if, reading our newsletter every week can help 1 or 2 parents, and it's worth it for us.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. So let's go ahead and get into the content. Let's get straight into the meat and kind of walk through what we've seen with soccer and how things are going. So let's start with the problem. Obviously, I'm not sure if many people know this, but you're the first player to climb through all ranks of U.S. soccer ever in history. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know. Crazy. I didn't even know that until I got to DC United, and my agent texted me and he was like, you're the first player ever to climb through all the ranks in U.S. soccer. Because at the time, MLS Next Pro was not a league. So There was the PDL, there was USL League One, there was USL Championship, and then there was MLS. And so when I signed my contract with DC, he was like, he told me that. And it caught me off guard. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was really cool. It's something that I've never been, I don't know if I've ever been the first to do anything. So this was something that was awesome for me. I don't really talk about it that much, but it is really cool. Part of my journey and part of my story.
Do you remember a time when first and foremost, build the statue. I can't stop thinking about it. But do you remember a time when you were first starting where you realized, hey, I'm pro. I've done it. Like, was there a moment where you feel like I did it? I've made it?
It's crazy. I was actually having the conversation on the car drive down to the stadium yesterday. We had a game yesterday at home, and I had my buddy Jordan in the car with me, and we were talking about this. He looked over at me and he was like, man, I think it's just crazy. Like, you're not just on an MLS team. Like you're playing, like you're like playing consistently, like you're getting minutes, like you're starting, like, how does that feel to you? And I feel like before I got to DC United, before I started playing and starting in games in the MLS, like it was always a dream of mine. Like it was something that I thought honestly was not going to happen. Like it was always just like far out there, like something you think of and you're like, man, that'd be awesome. And then when you are a part of it, I feel like I don't think of it that way anymore. Like I feel like I don't think of it like that. I am super grateful and thankful for the opportunity to play in the MLS and for the coaching staff and the front office here that gave me an opportunity. But I just think of it now as like, another day of work, another day of grinding, another day of working hard. Like, it's almost like, and I never ever have that satisfaction in my heart of like, oh, Connor, like you made it. You can take your foot off the gas. Like I'm way too competitive for that. So I don't think I've had that moment of like, oh, like you're in the MLS, like you're doing it. I feel like I think that every day. Like I feel like I think that every day. Like I don't know. I don't think there was like a defining moment. I could think back to like my very first MLS start away in St. Louis last year. And that was only like their second year as a franchise, unbelievably new stadium. The crowd is incredible there. Like one of the best fields I've ever played on. The atmosphere was ridiculous. And that was the first time in a long time that I was actually nervous for a game. I feel like I was like really comfortable in the USL in a really good way that I'd been there for so long. I was super comfortable with any team we played against or anywhere we traveled to because I had done it for so many years. But stepping foot on the field in St. Louis was the first time where I was like, man, I had some jitters. So that might have been like my welcome to the MLS moment. It was like, hey, you're here, dude. Like you're walking out the tunnel, like fire's going up on each side of you. Like fireworks are going off over there. There's like 30,000 people in the stands. It's like, all right, like let's do this. So maybe then.
Yeah, man, that's insane. I remember watching you. I mean, your debut in St. Louis, what was it, like the 80th minute?
So wait, so actually, no, this was, so my MLS debut was our home opener was last year, our home opener against New England. And I ended up getting an assist in that game, which was incredible. Assist to Benteke as well, which is just like, even him being my teammate is just so awesome, incredible. I remember when I signed with DC United, I had so many people reaching out to me like, dude, you're about to be teammates with Benteke. And I'm like, dude, let me show you how untouched I was with the soccer world. I was like, who's that? Like not really, but obviously I knew who Benteke was. It's incredible to be his teammate. But that was an awesome moment for me to kind of get my feet. I had no expectations of being on the bench or definitely not getting into the game. And then 70th minute, they look down and they're like, get in. And I'm just trying to do the best I can. I'm trying to work hard, and I ended up getting an assist, which is incredible. And then my first MLS start would come a few weeks later against St. Louis. But those two moments were like, just huge moments for me in my career, where I, really felt like, man, you're doing this thing. Like you're here, because you get to the point where you're not getting any younger. You get to the age where it's like, man, is this ever going to happen for me? Like it's, and you kind of become comfortable and okay with the fact like, hey, it's not going to happen for me. Because I'll be honest, when I found out, like, I was a week and a half into preseason with Tampa Bay Rowdies in 2024. And my head coach at the time, Robbie Nielsen, pulls me outside and he's like, hey, he goes, we've agreed to a transfer agreement for you to DC United. And I lost my breath. I was like, hold on. I was like, hold on, like, do I have a say in this? Like, and he was like, yeah, absolutely, you have a say in this. Like, you don't have to go. He was like, I'd love for you to stay.
Yeah.
So um, he
Yeah.
was like, I think this, he was like, I'm really big on players making it to the next level and reaching their full potential.
Yeah.
He was like, I think you need to go home, talk to your wife about it, which is so crazy. That day, I had just got a haircut the day before because that day we had media day with the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Like I was supposed to take all my photos in our new jerseys.
Yeah.
So I obviously didn't go to media day, and my teammates were kind of wondering like, where are you at? Like, what are you doing? And I couldn't really tell them at the time. And then, went home, told my wife, and my wife is amazing. She's the most supportive person in the world. And, we packed our lives up in 3 days and then left for DC on a Sunday. And she was 8.5 months pregnant at the time. It was unbelievable, what she was capable of and what we were capable of doing. Like when we found out we were moving up here, but it just adds to the coolness, I think, of the story,
It does.
Yeah. Like just it was awesome. Really.
I remember when you called me.
That's great. Yeah.
I tell the story every day for the rest of my life, but but I remember you called me and you were like, "Are you sitting down?" And I'm like, "Yeah. What's going on? Like, what happened?" And you're asking my wife was home and stuff, and then you're like, "I have some good news and bad news." And I'm like, "You've been traded. Where is it?" And you're like,
"Well, our wives were going to dinner that night together, and I didn't want Hannah to tell Brittany, and then Brittany tell you like secondhand information." I was like, "No, I got to tell this guy to his face." Or I got to tell him over the phone or something.
Yeah. It's so good. And then I remember you were like, I've been traded. I'm like, where? And you're like, MLS. I'm like, no way. Tell me. But no, it's obviously really cool that you've had this long journey. You've got to this point. But I will say, I remember I've seen you play plenty of times. I saw you play at the Rowdies, and that was obviously really cool as well. But I remember seeing you on TV with the MLS with DC United. And I remember I told all my friends, my buddy's playing, he may play tonight. So, you get the Apple subscription, I'm streaming on my phone the whole night. You're not coming in. I'm like, okay, you never know. And then I get home, literally the minute I put the big screen on, I see you're standing on the sideline about to get subbed in. Yeah. And then, moments later, you're like getting stuck in, people will learn to know this about you is that you really like to chirp on the field, which I really appreciate. But I remember seeing you get stuck in once, chirping, getting stuck in again. And then moments later, you're heading it to Benteke to score. And I was like, the moment I got home, I saw this and I'm like,
that was just like a huge blur for me looking back. Like I had only been in DC. I'd only been on the team for a few weeks. I barely knew these guys' names. And, they trusted me enough to come in the last 20 minutes and do a job. I'm really proud, I think, of my story more than anything. That's probably like the word I could use to describe most is like, I'm really proud because I tell people this all the time. Like I was never, I tell parents this all the time too about their players because I think, it's a huge like story of myself is like, I was never the most talented player, never like, the most gifted, I always feel like I was the guy who just like never gave up, who always like tried to work the hardest, be the hardest working player on the field. And, I genuinely feel like that paid dividends because I think coaches, they see that, they appreciate that, they want players whose hearts are really in it. I think now that's a huge struggle for like the youth players and youth clubs is like they have a lot of players who may be really talented, they may be really gifted, maybe really fast, but like their heart's just not in it. There's some things that can't be taught, which is, I tell people like attitude and effort. Like, you can't teach that. And, I feel like I was the kid who, always had a great attitude and always gave 110%. And then obviously I was okay at playing as well. So I feel like a combination of those things like got me to where I am. But I never ever like tell people I was the most gifted on the field. I mean, at a younger age, maybe I stood out a little bit in those ways. But as I got older, you start to realize like there's always somebody 4 years younger than you, probably 4 times better than you. And so, you got to really control what you can control, which is your attitude and your effort. And that's kind of something I try to live by every day.
Yeah, I can tell. I remember when you were again, we're going way back here and we'll get into some other content, but remember when you were in high school and you came in and you and your brother, people don't know you have a twin brother, but which we'll definitely talk about more on this show as well. But you guys came in and you immediately were hungry and aggressive, and it's the same concept. I feel like probably in the pro side as well. But that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So looking back, obviously you've been playing for your whole life. I mean, you said you're 30 now, so you've been playing your whole life, and it's been a long journey. Obviously, to get to this level is amazing. Is there anything specifically that happened during your youth career where you realized actually getting to pros was possible or achievable?
I don't think it was in like youth soccer has changed so much since I played youth soccer. So for me, I don't think it was during my youth soccer days when I realized you may have potential to go pro here. Because like I said, growing up, I was never the most skillful. I was never the one getting scouted by big colleges or, getting put in the draft and things like that. Like it was never like that. I think it was when I got to college. When I got to college, I went to a small Division I school in Macon, Georgia, Mercer University. I think is when I started to realize, hey, maybe you can do more with this. Maybe you can actually play pro. And at the time, I'll be honest, man, when I was a freshman, sophomore in college, I didn't even know what the pro game looked like in the US. I didn't know what the USL was. I didn't know. I played a couple seasons in the PDL. I played with the Seattle Sounders U23s for a year. And then I played for Tormenta FC for a year in the PDL, which is where I ended up signing my first pro contract, was with Tormenta FC. But I don't think I realized it until I was in college, where I was surrounded by players and playing against players who are a little bit bigger, a bit faster, a little bit more athletic, a little bit, just better technically. And I was still kind of doing my thing and staying above the average, I guess. And so I thought, maybe I could play pro. And I had my brother Ian there with me too. We played college ball together, and him and I did really well in college. And we felt like, maybe that was a path we both wanted to pursue. So yeah, I would say it wasn't youth soccer for me, like it is nowadays, because nowadays, like I said, it's changed so much. These kids that are 14, 15, 16 years old, they're signing with MLS clubs. They're signing like Kevon Sullivan with Philadelphia Union. I played against this kid a couple weeks ago, when we played Philadelphia Union in Philly, and this kid's 15, and he's different. He's different. He's extremely talented. Kids these days, I think they come with a new confidence, confidence I know I didn't have back in the day. So these kids are growing up, especially if they have older brothers. Ivana has an older brother that plays on Philadelphia Union. So I'm sure he's been able to see his older brother and kind of follow in those footsteps and kind of mature quicker at a younger age. But youth soccer has changed so much where it's man, these kids are signing pro deals and academy contracts at young ages. So it's definitely changed a lot. But I think that's for the better. If we want youth soccer in America to grow, it's got to start at younger ages. And I'm a huge believer in sending a lot of these guys over to Europe, because I do feel like even though we've improved a lot with development of younger players, I feel like, the way they do it in Europe is different. And, this guy's going to be leaving for Man City here soon, which I think is an unbelievable move for his career, obviously, because, the way they develop young talent over there is a lot better than what we do here in the US right now. Unfortunately, we're getting there. We're trying to get better at it. But it's changed a lot since I was a kid.
Well, that's probably a good place to transition a little bit as well, and kind of what we're seeing with youth soccer today. So obviously your career and your life was built the way that, you were surrounded with support, like the people that were around you helping guide and coach you and teach you, not only legitimate coaches, but also just your support group. But when you look at the system today, obviously you have MLS Next, you have, USL. Obviously there's even MPL and different levels of ECNL and ECNL-RL. So there's a lot. And I think, we've both been coaches. We understand that parents are confused a lot about that, and partially when we're getting involved. But what's your like overarching advice to parents who are navigating this? Because things have changed. It is difficult, but
Yeah.
if you had to go through it, which we both have kids and we will go through it, but if you
Yeah.
had to go through it, like, how are you approaching the game from a getting to the next level perspective?
Yeah. I think back to my journey with my parents, my mom and dad, neither one of them coming from a soccer background whatsoever. So they weren't able to offer much advice when it came to, my own individual soccer journey. My dad had a football background, and my dad is just a huge competitor. Like, he just wanted us to be on the best team we could possibly be on. Like, I'll never forget a story. We played for the Coweta Cannons growing up. This was our youth team we played for back in Georgia, Coweta Cannons, and we lost a game to the Peachtree City Lasers 7-0, right? On a Saturday morning. We lost 7-0. Monday night, we were training with the Peachtree City Lasers because my dad was like, nah, like, if you guys are getting beat, he watched how that team played, and he was like, no, I want my boys on that team, because my dad knew, if I put my sons around better players, they will develop more and they will become better. And I'm a huge believer in that as well. But once again, he didn't have any soccer knowledge or background, which is a huge part of the reason why you and I started something like this. Is like, we want to be able to help parents. Like, we want to be able to answer questions that parents may have about their son or their daughter. I had a mom reach out to me the other day asking about her daughter, she's playing on this club team, and she's the best player on this club team. Like, she starts every game. She's been scoring goals. Like, she's great, but the team doesn't necessarily get invited to like certain tournaments or showcases, right? And there's another team that's asked that they want her daughter to come play on this other team, and it's like the best team in the state, but there's no guarantee that she'll play. There's no guarantee that she'll start. There's no guarantee that she'll get seen. And she was asking me, she's like, what would you do? Yeah. And I told her, I mean, I know it's not my child, but I told her, I was like, if it was my daughter, I was like, my daughter would be on that other team. I was the better team, the team that's the best in the state. I was like, because I know my daughter will develop so much more being surrounded by better players than she will being a standout player on this team. I was like, you're people have probably heard this term, but you're an average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. The same goes for the game. Like, you surround yourself with 5 players that are better than you, it only is going to elevate your game. And then I told her another story. My wife used to play soccer back in the day. And there was a girl on her team. She didn't play. My wife played for a really good team back in Georgia. Really good team. A lot of these girls, a few of them played in the NWSL right now. A lot of them went off to college on like full rides to play. But there was one girl, she didn't play very much on this team. And she got subbed in one game early. There was like an injury. She got subbed in like the first 10, 15 minutes. Or maybe she even started. I can't remember. It was like her first start. She dominated, played so well. After the game, 2 different college coaches from Division I schools came up to offer a full ride. Like, it was, I was there. I watched it. Like, I was there. I saw it happen. So I was like, that was a really cool moment for me to see. But that's kind of like what I was encouraging this mom to do. But like I said, there's loads of parents out there that they may not have the education to help their kid, because everybody, whether you know anything about soccer or not, you want what's best for your child. You want what's best for your kid. So something like I think I told you this when we first started out, is like, I have a huge passion for doing individual training sessions and helping train kids. And after every single training session, like, the parents will come up to me and they'll ask me a billion questions about their child, which is great. I'm happy to answer them. I want to be a part of it. But I was, when you and I started talking about doing this, it was like, hey, how can we, make this bigger? Like, how can we help more parents? Because I'm talking to maybe 2, 3, 4 parents a week, but like, how can we, create a platform or create a newsletter where people can actually like type in questions, ask, schedule a one-on-one call and get help and assistance. Because at the end of the day, like, that's what we want. Like, I want to be able to help you. I want to be able to help you help your kid, or I'll talk to your child one-on-one. If they want to, talk about their own individual soccer journey or whatever they're going through. I think there's a lot of questions out there that parents have. And nowadays it's kind of sad that coaches of their club team, or, maybe people who are high up in their club team, like, they don't really want to answer those questions. Like, they're kind of just there to do their job. They don't really want to help out that much. And some do. But I think that's a huge reason, like why we started this and why, we're so passionate about this is because, I know growing up, and we'll get into this a little bit later when it gets to like my college journey, but like, I know growing up, I would have killed to have somebody to like ask questions to, like, hey, can you guide me with this? Can you help me with this? Because you don't know what you don't know. And I didn't know a lot. My parents didn't know a lot. So having just a resource to rely on and someone you can count on is, I think, huge.
Yeah, I think we're doing this for a big reason. So I think
I know.
Nailed it. It's good. I would say, when you look at you playing throughout your youth career, now you have the chance to coach other kids. Kids are coming up to you after games and things, and parents. There's obviously a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Knowing how you would approach the game as a parent now, is there any underlying advice you'd give to players? Because obviously your specific journey was unique in its own way, but the game's evolving and getting exposure, and parents are there to help set players up. But what about now if the player gets that opportunity? Like what advice are you giving them, on the team, outside the team? Like, what would you say?
I mean, I think I touched on it a little bit already, but I think it's so underrated, and like I always preach this to the kids I train. It's like work ethic. Like you have to be, in order to, I think you sent me a statistic the other day. It was like 0.08% of players like play in the MLS or play pro soccer or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And when a coach comes to watch your team, or they're at a showcase and they're watching a game, they don't just watch the game. They watch how you guys walk up to the field. They watch the warm-ups. They watch how your body language. They watch everything. They watch your attitude during the game. They watch how you talk to your teammates. So I think, any advice that I could give to a kid is like, when you go to these showcases, when you go and coaches are watching you, you have to be the hardest working player on the field. Like you have to be. There's just no excuse about it. Especially if you're not the most talented. You've got to go that extra mile. And then two is like, you really got to without being fake in it, you gotta be your true self, your real self, and be a positive attitude, be a positive voice on the field, encourage your teammates. I don't know that. I feel like that's a question I may need to think about a little bit more.
It's tough.
But
I think the approach is good. I mean, I think
every kid's journey is different. Like every kid deals with something different. Some people deal with different, like injuries or whatever it may be. But every kid's journey is different. So I think everyone deals with something a little bit different, or they struggle with something a little bit different. So I think, it would just depend on the kid.
Yeah. Very individualized, which is good. And like you said, a lot of parents are approaching this for the first time. Yeah. So their child's skill set, mentality, energy, focus, all those things are probably different from other kids and getting different, feedback from coaches. So I think generally speaking, going that extra mile is a really good point.
Yeah.
And then, parents, I love the story about the P3C layers about your dad putting you in the better team, because and even the teammate of your wife, those opportunities that you get, you have to nail and be ready for. So parents can
absolutely,
kids going the extra mile is going to make a difference.
Yeah, I think I can touch on that a little bit too, is because like parents are so quick to get frustrated, like if their kid's not playing enough or they're not getting enough minutes, or it's like they show up on the weekends for the games and they're like, oh, why isn't my kid playing? Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, how many training sessions did you go to this week? How many times did you go out and watch them in training? Like, have they been training well? How many times are they at the house, like doing extra work or whatever it may be? Like, you can't just show up on the weekends and be shocked if your child's not playing. Yeah. That's selfish. That's selfish on you. So really invest, I guess, a little bit more time and effort, because I love to put this in maybe our next newsletter we do, but there's an interview of Van Persie, and this guy's talking to Van Persie about, he's like asking some questions about his son. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I have.
And Van Persie's son, like, he had a bad game and he gets in the car and Van Persie's just listening to his son. His son's like, oh, the referee was like this and the coach this and like my teammates this. And And then Percy looks at him and he was like, yeah, like, you sound like a loser. He's like, literally said, he's like, you sound like you sound like a loser. He
Yeah.
was like, you're blaming everyone else for like your problems. Like, if you really want to succeed and do well, like you change what you've been doing wrong and you take like you take the next step. You don't just get in the car and complain about it. You change it. And then he said he took him to training like a couple of days later because they had a game on a Saturday. I think they trained like Tuesday night. He took him and he was like, yeah, he told his wife, he's like, yeah, I want to go watch the session. And he went out and watched the session and he saw just a completely different player, like a dog, someone getting stuck in on challenges, someone like in a good way, not like, trying to hurt anyone, but like just saw a new energy, saw a new mindset. So, I always think that's a really cool story about how parents can, because it's so easy as a parent to just like get in the car and like agree with them. Yeah, the ref was terrible. Yeah. Or you could take that approach as a parent and be like, you know what? No, you need to be better. Like, you know what? You need to be better. Like you need to train more, or you need to do this, or whatever it may be. Don't just take their side because their parent agree with them. You're not. My dad was really hard on me, so I but it was like sometimes you're there to be your son or your daughter's best friend, and whatever. And then sometimes you're there to like really challenge them and call them to more because you really want the best. At the end of the day, you want the best for them. And they know that, they understand that. So, I always challenge parents with that too. It's like, hey, look, like, if it's not working out for your kid right now, like go watch them in training, see how they're doing, see if, see what's happening in training and see what their attitude's like, see if they're joking off in the corner with their friend. And then they wonder why they're not playing on the weekends,
Yeah.
So, yeah,
that's good. That's really good. Yeah, I think what's interesting is you get, every situation is different for kids. Some questions are, we traveled across the state, my son or daughter didn't play a minute, or hey, he's not really getting along with players in practice, or he's not motivated. There's a lot of questions we get. I think rooting it to Prodigy and what we're trying to build with Prodigy, our whole focus is to answer a lot of those questions. But again, it's very individualized, like you were saying. So make it with context. And I think that's why finding content online is so hard, because you can Google how to get my kid more playing time, or, how do I get better left foot? Like, sure, there's answers everywhere, but the reality is every kid player's journey is very different. Even though there's paths that you can take clearly, everything is very different. So that's fantastic advice. When you look at the whole landscape today of soccer, is there anything that you think it's very important for kids to focus on, whether it be watching pro games, getting extra play time at home? Like what else can kids be doing as they watch the game today that can maybe help them reach the next level?
Yeah, I think I don't know. For this one, it's simple for me. I don't think you can ever touch the ball too much. I think the more you're out touching a ball, doing drills on your own, the better. Believe it or not, I run so many private drills with kids where we go out there with the ball and we're doing cone drills or step overs or whatever it may be, and some kids will get a little frustrated and they'll be like, oh, like, I've been doing this forever. I was like, listen, freaking Christian Benteke comes out on the field and he's doing this stuff. Like, I don't care what level of soccer you're at. This stuff it continues. Like, just because you get to the next level, the highest level in the US, like, doesn't mean that the drills change. Like, guys are still out there working on their footwork, doing individual dribbling drills or whatever it may be. So really perfecting your craft. Like, if you want to get better at free kicks, you need to be out there taking 500 after practice. You hear loads of stories about Cristiano Ronaldo, how his teammates just thought back when he played for Man United, how they thought he was just like, they thought something was wrong with him, because not only would he be the first one in the training facility, and then like after training, they'd have a tough session and this guy's grabbing a bag of balls by himself and going to like the far goal. He didn't want anyone with him. He didn't care if anyone saw him, but he was going over there to do more, to do extra, because he wanted to be the best on the weekend. He wanted to perfect his craft. He wanted to perfect what he was doing. So I always encourage kids. I mean, if your parents can help you, get out and do sessions with other players. And I mean, I'm really, I feel like I'm really picky with my private sessions. Like I'm really like I lace my boots up. I'm into the session. Like if I'm training your kid one-on-one, or if I've got 2-3 kids out there, I'm sweating just as much as they are. Like, cause I know parents are paying really good money for me to train their kids. And I want to make sure that they get the most out of it. So making sure you find somebody who cares about your kid and their soccer and their future just as much as you do, and really putting time and effort into that. Because if you can find somebody that can like really put them through a session and you're like, oh wow, like I see a difference, I think that's really important. So I'd say the number one thing, man, just keep the ball, have the ball at your feet, always getting touches, like always trying to get better. I do think, like you said, watching maybe pro games, I think this can help. I did this as a kid for sure. Watching, it doesn't have to be like Real Madrid, Barcelona. You could watch MLS games or whatever it may be, and find the player that plays your position and watch them, watch how they move, watch their movements, watch their tendencies, watch how they defend a 1v1 or attack a 1v1. I think that's a really cool way. I'm not saying you need to take notes on it or anything like that, but if you want to, you can. But I think, watching how the pros do it, watching how the guys at the highest level do it, is a great way for you to, see techniques or tendencies of something to replicate in your own game. So yeah, that's a good way too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Obviously we watch a lot of soccer now, but I remember growing up, I had a coach who was obsessed with watching, and he would say, watch a game a week, tell me who you watched, what you learned, or watch a position. But he was actually, and this is different, but he was actually really adamant about all of our parents buying FIFA, because because the more time you spend, even if you're playing video games, the more time you spend learning the game. And his biggest focal point was, you see the game differently when you can control the whole game. So if you're controlling a team, obviously it's very unique to, you're playing every position in the game, but you're seeing it from a different angle. Where on the field and you're hearing it from a coach, you may be, maybe hearing it very differently. So, but I love that. I think having an opportunity to have a ball at your feet as much as possible. I mean, I used to dribble around my kitchen, and my mom used to get so annoyed.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I can't even tell you the amount of things that my twin brother and my younger brother, we broke. And my mom used to say, like, man, I can never have anything nice, because we would break everything. And I feel bad now because my mom's the best woman in the world. But in the moment, I just wanted to play.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember who it was. I think Rory McIlroy just won the Masters. I'm not sure if you heard his interview after the game, but they were, or after the Masters Sunday, but they were making a joke about his whole childhood. His mom used to be so annoyed, but he used to chip a golf ball into the dryer over and over and over.
I think I did see this. Yeah, I think I did see this.
And like, it became an obsession for him to try and break his own record. And I think the same rule obviously goes to any sport, but specifically soccer. The more you can juggle. I mean, there's kids hitting their juggle records. I did hear a story recently. I read David Beckham's book when I was a kid, but I heard the story again recently. After practice, his dad would make him stay at practice and try and hit the crossbar, I think 50 times or 100 times crossbar, which is, and I know that's already a challenge, but like, to do it over and over as a kid, I mean, that's the whole perspective of him being one of the greatest free kick takers, is the fact that he can put the ball where he wants to put it. So
absolutely.
No, I love that. I love that advice. Is there anything else that you would share that you wish kids would know about the journey? Because I think there's a really, mystical thing in the air of like, oh, you're good, you go pro, or you good, you go college. But there's obviously so much in between there. Is there anything you want to pull the veil back on about the journey that maybe kids or parents should know, or you wish you would have known?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call like pulling the veil back, but like, man, I think back to like my club days when I played for Congo Fire, and we had a great team in Georgia, and I played with some guys who were incredible players. Like, these guys were, meant to be U.S. men's national team players. Like, they were going to the top Division I schools, like Duke, Notre Dame, West Point, like the top Division I schools in the country for soccer. And now, they're like accountants, and they work at,
which isn't bad.
Well, no, which is great, amazing. That's not what I'm saying.
They're actually probably need an accountant,
which is great. Which is great. That's not what I'm saying. Which is amazing. Like, it's great. It's great that they do that. But I think back to, I think back to like those guys and how like, you know,
Yeah.
everyone was like, oh, they're playing pro. They're definitely going pro. This guy's going to get drafted, this and that. And none of them did. Like none of them. So, and no one was saying that about me. Nobody said that about me. Like nobody was saying like, oh, Connor's going to go play in the MLS for DC United. But I'll tell you what's really cool is like I get messages from some of these guys that's like, dude, I'm watching your journey. I'm freaking see you, like keep crushing it. That's really awesome. But you know,
Yeah,
I keep going back to this. It's like and I said this earlier, is like I just feel like I never gave up. I feel like I continued working so hard and being diligent in what I wanted to do and being passionate about what I wanted to do and genuinely like loving what I wanted to do. Like I had an interview last year with DC United and they were like, you know, what's kept you, one of the questions the girl asked me was like, what's kept you motivated throughout your career? And you know, one is that I'm just a huge competitor and I want to be the best at everything. But two is like, I just love the game. Like I just love playing. Nothing, I wouldn't say nothing, like very few things bring me joy the way that soccer does, you know, like stepping out on the field. It's like an escape from life. Not, you know, my life's amazing, but it's like an escape where you don't think of anything else, but just with the ball at your feet, you're with your friends. So I would say that, you know, whatever team you're on, you know, as a kid from a youth perspective, if you're not the best player on your team, if you're not the one that's getting noticed or getting Division I scholarships or whatever, you know, don't lose heart. Don't be frustrated in that, because I was that guy. I was that player. You know, I was the one that was not getting these full rides to the Dukes and the Notre Dames and to all these like great schools. But man, I continued working so hard. I continued grinding. I continued, you know, wanting to be the best that I could. And, you know, I can't stress this enough. Like everyone's journey is different. I went to small Mercer University in Macon, Georgia. And, you know, Mercer probably in the past like 10 years has had maybe 2 or 3 guys drafted. And now there's like 4 or 5 of us in the MLS now, but you know, it doesn't matter where you went to school. It doesn't matter where you go. You know, it's, the opportunity is out there for everybody, like genuinely, you know, everyone's path looks different. You know, I would say, I don't know if we're going to get into some college stuff later, but I would say, you know, 2020's hindsight, like looking back, I may have done it a little bit differently, but this goes to my point of like, I didn't know any better. Like I didn't know how to communicate with college coaches. I didn't know, you know, okay, like, hey, if you go to UNC, they're not going to give you a scholarship for the first year, but like maybe second, third, fourth year, you get a scholarship, like, and you get drafted. Like, you know, if you believe, like, there's just so many things that I probably would have done differently if I had known, but I just didn't. You know, I didn't have somebody guiding me. I didn't have somebody there that was kind of like holding my hand throughout the way and helping me with that process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, obviously I'm a big fan because I'm one of your best friends, but also I'm a big fan because of, you know, what you've gone through to get to where you're at. I mean, literally when you called me, it wasn't oh my goodness, my friend's, you know, going to big leagues. It's like, oh my goodness, my friend he's done it. Like, he's done it. Like he actually won. Like he achieved it.
Dude, I remember thinking, I remember when I told so I'm probably obviously like closest with my twin brother, Ian, like him and I are just like that. Right. And I remember when I had him over, we were in St. Pete. I had him over that night. The day I found out, I had him and his wife over to tell them the news. And I remember telling him, and he was like, his first words out of his mouth is like, "Oh my God, you made it. Like you did it." Yeah. That's what he said. Like, that's what it was like. He was very sad and very like emotional. I think about it just because he was upset and sad that we were leaving. We were having to leave Florida and it was going to happen so soon. But at the same time, I remember him telling me, he was like, dude, like you did it. Like I can't, like, I'll never forget that moment. It was so awesome. Like it was so great. Cause like if anyone knows like how hard it's been and how hard I've worked and like everything I've been through, it's him. It's cause like we stepped through that soccer journey, so many steps together. And he's seen me play more than anyone out there, maybe my wife. But I'll never forget that, where he was like, "Oh, you did." Whereas like in my mind, I was like, "Crap!" Like now the real work starts. Like now I really got to go play myself. Now I really got to go play. It's one thing to make it on an MLS roster. It's another thing to play. It's another thing to start consistently. You know, like there's levels. You know, once you get up here, but it's yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Well, I know we have about 14 minutes left here, 13, 14 maybe. I would say, we have so much to talk about. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I talk a lot, I know, but I talk a lot because I really am. I'm really passionate about this, and B, man, I really want to help parents and players. Like that's really what I care about the most, because
yeah,
I feel like I could help parents and players so much time, maybe money, help guide them through the trials that come along with this type of stuff, man, or preparing for college, or whatever it may be. Because I know going through it alone, and you go through it and you don't have a clue what's going on, like it's tough, it's hard, and I would hate for someone to miss out on an opportunity that might be right there in front of them.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's interesting is, as I look at this, I'm really excited for all the conversations we'll have with you and other players and other experts and whatnot. But I think it kind of boils down to that elementary fable, I think is what you would call it. But it's the idea of you could help all these parents one-to-one by private coaching, by getting on the phone with them, by answering their questions. That whole fable of saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed a whole village. And I think that's our whole concept here is, sure, we can help individually, and we plan to help parents individually with consults and resources and programs. But we hope to create a platform with the newsletter and other offerings that almost allow us to teach a village in a sense.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm really excited. We have so much. I mean, literally, there's so many topics we want to cover. But
I know.
I think that's good.
All in due time.
Yeah, all in due time. A lot of exciting things ahead for us. As you look at Prodigy itself, obviously you and I have had a ton of conversations about Prodigy and soccer and all that. I want to dive into what we hope to accomplish with Prodigy and what we hope to offer, but I wanted to take a quick beat before we transition off of the call to kind of pick the idea of Prodigy and where that came from as a funny note.
Yeah.
And then we'll dive into the offerings. But
dude,
I know we were talking about names. We were chatting back and forth one night. My wife was in my room. Your wife was over there with you, and we were chatting back about what are we going to name this? What are we going to call this? So I'd love to hear your perspective.
I remember you sent me, you'd sent me like 5 or 6, and Prodigy was obviously one of them. And as soon as I saw it, I knew, I was like, that's the one. And Hannah was like, why? And I said, let me tell you why. Because back in high school, where you and I met at East Coweta, you and I were like close in high school. Like we had formed this like cool bond, this relationship, even though you were like a few years older than me.
That teammate bond,
Yeah, we were teammates on the soccer team or whatever, but like we went around school and everyone was like, "Oh, there's Connor, that's Corey's Prodigy." Like I was like your Prodigy. Like it was crazy. Like I don't know how that happened. Like if it was just people saw us on the soccer field, or it was like we hung out together all the time. It was like, oh, there's Connor, that's Corey's Prodigy, like that. And then you would walk past me in the hallways. You would be like, "What's up, Proj?" And I'd be like, "What's up, my boy?" And dude, it was like 3-4 years of that. And I loved it because I was like, because you were like really popular in high school. And I was like, man, like I'm that dude's Prodigy. Like, yes, like, plug me in. So that was awesome. So I remember when you sent me that, because after high school, like, dude, I don't even think I heard that word for years. Like I hadn't heard that word Prodigy forever. And then you sent me that, and I was like, this is like a full circle moment. Like this makes sense. Yeah. I was like, this is meant to be. And even in our logo, like Prodigy and the pro is underlined, because I think, that's the goal, or that is a goal for us, is like, if your son or your daughter like wants to play pro, we want to help them get there. I feel like my own individual path, my journey is a testament of what it can take to get there. I feel like I have a wealth of knowledge in being able to help parents, I said earlier, kind of navigate that journey, especially parents who were like my parents, who had no idea about soccer, didn't really want to go up to their coaches, or didn't want to go to the club director or whoever it may be and talk to them about their son, why he's not playing or whatever it may be. Having a resource like you and I, and it's not just pro either. It's whatever level that your kid wants to reach. Like, it's just helping them reach that next level. And maybe they just want to play soccer in high school because their friends are playing, and that's it. That's fine. Yeah. That's cool too. But I think you know, kind of like in high school, you were kind of like guiding me along and like helping me out like along the way. Like,
Yeah.
that's what we kind of want to be for parents. Like we want to help them out. We want to guide them. We want to give them advice and really,
Yeah.
what means the most for me is their kid, is get the best out of their kid, help their kid reach their full potential. Because I know, when my kids are a little bit older, I feel like, they don't have a choice but to play soccer, but I feel like I am very well equipped to help guide them in that journey if they want to play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll see when we get there, but I think that's like, I don't know, man, that's my heart behind it is, I can help a parent at a time, 2 or 3 times a week with a training session or whatever, but if we could reach 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 parents and get them involved in a community or a chat where we're, all helping each other, that's the goal. Like that's the dream, is like, everybody in there helping one another in this journey that, everyone wants to reach the next level. Everyone wants the best for their kid. There's not a parent in the world you talk to and say, yeah, you know what? I don't really want what's best for him. Like, let's just leave him. No one's saying that. Everybody wants what's best for their kid. They want to provide the best for their kid. And if we can be a resource to help that, then I would love to be.
Well, and I like where we're at too, because obviously we're both obsessed. The game is growing. Club World Cup this summer, World Cup next summer.
Yeah.
Clearly the USL is expanding. The MLS looks like it's expanding. So there's a lot of opportunity. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The soccer and sports in general open up so much for kids and families, and whatever that goal may be, the goal may be to go pro.
Yeah.
The goal may get chiseled back a little bit and chiseled back. But at the end of the day, this can really lead kids to different levels of success.
Yeah.
And I mean, even looking at, my soccer career, I called you my prodigy, and look how well you've grown, right? But like, but at the same time, like I
appreciate it. I owe you.
Well, like look, like in the same way, like I didn't go pro, and but at the same time, soccer led me to going to play 2 years of soccer at a college, small college, and then I went to a massive 4 university where nobody in my family had really graduated from college. So first generation getting a degree from an SEC school, like that was a massive accomplishment. So I think you're spot on to knowing that investing in kids and the way that we're doing hopefully leads to kids just getting opportunity, and hopefully it's the next level and the next level and next level. And who knows, maybe you'll be coaching a kid at the pro level one day that was part of this, be full circle there too. But
absolutely.
But yeah, I think for us, and I know we have 6 minutes here, so we'll wrap it up, but I think for us, the idea is really building a space that we can talk about all these topics, and again, kind of bridge the connection between kids and parents and pros and college players and experts. Instead of it being very mysterious and very do-it-yourself, we want to really create a space where we're coming to parents and players with content, with value, with impact. So just briefly, I wanted to outline some things that we'll host, how you can connect with us. So what we'll do is we'll send out a newsletter every Monday. We've already sent out 2. We're growing. We're over 100 subscribers already, which is exciting. But every week we'll send out a video like this, recorded. We'll be meeting with other pros and coaches and experts. Hopefully we can get some college coaches in here soon to talk about the college process and club coaches.
Yeah.
But we'll also send out highlights of pro games. We'll send out takeaways from matches of the week. We want to send out games every week that you should be watching, whether you're a player or a parent. We send out gear recommendations. Last week we sent out a templated guide of 10 templates you can send to college coaches, email templates to reach out. So everything in between. Our goal is to give you resource every week, have a website where we can find this knowledge, but we want to bring in different perspectives so you can hear it from people who are in different positions. And as Connor mentioned, I think the big thing is coaches will give you different advice. And if you change clubs, you probably get different advice. And then, you may feel like a nuisance asking the same question, but ask those questions, set yourself or your kid up for success by just, getting a new opportunity. But for us, we hope to answer a lot of those questions, and we hope you engage as well. But real quickly, if you can, there's a link in our description where you can subscribe to our newsletter and get more of these videos. we just talked about it recently that we may not do many live videos. We may do more pre-recorded ones, but you can submit questions to ask us. And as we promote new players, maybe you have a specific question for them. We hope to get those answered for you. But as we wrap things up here, Connor, any last parting advice or tips? And I think I want to go back all the way to the beginning when you were playing club soccer and thinking about how full circle this is. Now you're approaching the peak of your career, so to speak, and you're starting to give advice to the younger self. If you look back to young Connor playing, I think Concord or even Lasers, maybe. It's always Laser. But like, any advice you'd give yourself now you look back full circle to you being 8, 9, 10 years old playing soccer?
Yeah. There's
tons of it probably.
There's this quote that I love, and one person that I heard use it. I'm not going to get it. Anyways, there's a quote that I love, and it's, "This too shall pass." And I think looking back in my career, like from club soccer to now, if you're really frustrated, when you're playing at your club, this too shall pass. You're really happy, you're enjoying it, you're loving it, this too shall pass. You're injured, going through a bad injury, this too shall pass. So I think like not getting too focused on, what you may be going through at the time, as long as the end goal remains the same. I think if that would save myself, looking back, that would have saved myself a lot of like just unneeded stress and, just unneeded pressure on myself. If I would have just put myself in that mindset of like, all right, this too shall pass, like not starting in college. All right, this too shall pass. You'll get your moment. Like, keep working hard, stay consistent. I think that's a huge thing for me. Consistency as well, just being consistent in what you do, having your non-negotiables, and non-negotiables is a word I feel like I've been using for a few years now, but it's like standards you live by that you don't cut corners on, whether it's your pre-activation before a game, before training, or post-activation, or taking care of your body, eating right. Like, these are non-negotiables that, little by little, they may not seem a lot, but little by little over a long period of time make a huge difference. So that's probably what I would have told my younger self.
Yeah. Pee Wee Connor, little Prodigy.
Oh my gosh.
So just to wrap things up. So thank you again, Connor. Next week, we're going to do a Q&A about Connor's experience, as a pro from Tormenta to the USL with the Rowdies to DC United. I know people want to hear about your routines, pregame mentalities, in the game experience. They want to hear about how training looks like. I get a lot of cool insight, but I'm sure everyone wants to know how those things go. So next week, we're going to host a video that'll be recorded going through a lot of those Q&As. So if you have questions, put them in the comments, subscribe. And then moving forward, we'll promote more of these as well. So you'll have other perspectives too. But Connor, this is awesome, man. I'm excited. I think
I'm excited. Something too that I want to end on as well is that I think a huge, a lot of parents as well, like a huge, market out there for like colleges is like, you and I are going to really touch base on that process from a youth player that maybe like an older youth player getting to college. Because I know college soccer is so huge in the US, but anything from contacting college coaches to sending highlight videos, creating a highlight video, whatever it may be, we're going to touch base on that and really help athletes with that process, because I have some really awesome stories about my own individual journey in getting to college, because it almost didn't work out for me. So I'm excited to share that with you. I'm excited to share that story.
Yeah, I know that story. It's a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good teaser for next time.
I know. Hey.
Awesome. Well, good talking, Connor. We're right at an hour, so we're going to end it here, but looking forward to more. And thanks everyone for joining.
All right. I'll see you next week.